Conference championships and state tournaments are happening. We've got no shortage of elite sports competition in Northeast Georgia right now. From Athens area high schools to UGA sports, there's plenty to talk about. So don't change the channel. We've got all the latest updates for you and some spotlight stories you're not going to want to miss. Tonight on Sportsource. Welcome into Sportsource, everyone. I am your host, Sarah Detwiler, and we've got a lot of spring sports to cover tonight, so I'll just jump right into it. Several Oconee County high school teams are heating up in the Stalker State Tournament. One in particular could claim a second straight state title. And how about Georgia's tennis teams, both in the SEC tournament this weekend? One hosting right here in Athens. Will either be able to win a conference championship? We'll deep dive into all these topics and more, but first, let's stay right here on campus with Spotlight reporter Taylor Vismor. She met up with Cole and Connor Tate, two Oconee County born and raised twins who now play for the Bulldogs. While they grew up in the same house on the diamond, their skill sets are quite different.
Cole and Connor Tate have been playing baseball together for 17 years, 5 of which have been for the University of Georgia, and this season could be their final season ever playing together.
We started playing around like 6, and then we started off with like T-ball, whatever, machine pitch, and then around 8 or 9 we started travel ball, and then all the way up through high school, travel ball, and then came here.
And they have played vital roles on each team they play on, including Oconee County High School, where head coach Tom Gooch first had to learn how to tell the two apart.
Was actually kind of easy because they act completely differently. Connor's kind of too cool for school, and Cole's a little, and their demeanor's completely different.
Their demeanor isn't the only thing that can help tell these two apart. Their positions in the field help too. Connor is a starting left fielder, and Cole is a starting shortstop, but they haven't always been at those positions.
He always played short, and so I never played short until 2 years ago. And he came here as a shortstop from high school, and I always played second base. And then when I got here, I was a second base, and he was at short or third. And then he got moved to the outfield. And then after Cam Shepard left, we needed a shortstop, so I started playing shortstop. But I've never played it before until Cam left.
And while they field in different positions, they also hit differently.
So I'm more of like just a contact hitter. So I don't hit for power at all. I mean, I'll hit some doubles and triples or whatever, but I don't hit a lot of home runs. And just really the two-strike approach and just getting deep into the counts and just putting the ball in play.
Connor hits for power.
The last 2 years, I said I've been seeing the ball really well. Last year I had more power numbers, but this year I feel like, except for the last week, I've been hitting a lot better this year with 2 strikes and be able to put the ball in play instead of like last year. Anytime I got 2 strikes, I'd strike out.
Cole, Connor, and the rest of the Georgia Bulldogs are hoping to make a run in postseason play later this year, and that's all they're focused on.
I mean, I don't know. I'm just really focusing on this year and just having fun with that.
Taylor Vismor, John H. Carmical Sports Media Institute at the University of Georgia.
Thanks so much, Taylor. We heard there from Coach Gooch at Oconee County. Spotlight reporter Burke Lyle also talked with Gooch this week about his current Warriors, who are looking for their 3rd straight postseason berth. Burke, what obstacles does this team have ahead on the playoff road?
Thank you, Sarah. The high school baseball season is winding down in the state of Georgia. The state playoffs start next week, and the Oconee County baseball team is on their way back to the state playoffs. If they want to avoid another first-round exit, they will need to lean on their experienced roster. This is a team led by 13 seniors out of the 21 players on the roster. Among the seniors are powering first baseman T.L. Saxon, center fielder Darius Johnson, who brings both power and speed to his game, and starting pitchers Sam Carter and Hudson Mullins. Saxon has 10 home runs on the season. Johnson has 6 home runs and 14 steals. Sam Carter strikes out almost 2 batters per inning. Mullins has an ERA of 3.24 and strikes out an average of more than a batter per inning. Now getting into more details on Saxon and Johnson. Saxon told me he likes to hit the fastball and off-speed pitches that are up in the zone, and he has improved on his plate discipline by not chasing pitches that pitchers want him to. For Johnson, a lot of his power comes from hitting inside pitches. It's not just power for him. He likes to use his speed on the base path. That could mean bunting for a hit or stealing bases. He told me he reads the pitcher's back foot, and getting a good jump is key when it comes to stealing bases. Another part of the team's success comes from the starting pitchers. The three main starting pitchers are juniors and seniors. Carter and Mullins are seniors. Banks Arnold is a junior. Coach Eric Watson told me they're good at throwing strikes, commanding the strike zone, and keeping games in control. Each of the three starting pitchers have ERAs at .329 or lower and strike out more than a batter per inning. The Warriors have faced some difficult opponents in the regular season. They played cross-county rival North Oconee, a state championship contender, as well as two teams that are state runner-ups, Benedictine and Franklin County. Franklin County plays in the same region as Oconee and is in first place. Oconee County, being in Region 8-3A, will play a team in Region 6-3A in the state. The Warriors could finish in second or third place depending on how they do in the doubleheader tonight against Hart County. Possible playoff opponents include Ringgold, Sonoraville, Chihuahua Creek, or Lakeview, Fort Oglethorpe. What does this Oconee County team need to do in order to play deep in the state playoffs? Coach Watson told me they need reliable pitching from their starters and bullpen, good defense in the field, and hitters putting the ball in play. The Warriors were in first place in their region for much of the season until they lost the series to Franklin County last week and then lost again to Hart County on Tuesday. I think this team wins both games against Hart tonight, and then at least in the first round series in the state playoffs. Back to you, Sarah.
Thank you so much, Burke. Great breakdown on the Warriors postseason. Okay, we've talked a lot about baseball here, but let's be honest, May is madness with all the spring college sports going on. We've got softball, men's golf, men's tennis, women's tennis, cross country.
Pardon the interruption, Sarah, but Ben and I have got lots of spring sports news to talk about in little time, so if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, we're ready to get into Excuse the Disturbance.
Okay, that's fair. So give me just 1 second. If you'd let me finish, I will happily give you the floor. Okay, where was I? All right, let's get going into UGA softball. They're heading into a top 25 matchup, and UGA men's golf finished today tied for 5th in the SEC tournament. Also, several Bulldogs are preparing for the NFL draft next week. But let's start things off with track and field. Now, D-Ben, take it away.
Thanks for the floor, Sarah, though that was a bit more than a second. But yes, let's talk about the 3 UGA records that were broken last weekend at the track meet. Ana de Silva broke a long-standing shot put. The 4x400 men's relay team blew past a record set in 1991, and the biggest news is Matthew Bowling, 1/4 of that relay, broke 10 seconds in the 100-meter with a win legal time of 9.98. Now, Dee, talk to me about de Silva. Do you think you can tell me about her in less time than it took Matthew Bowling to run 100 meters?
No, because someone as talented as her deserves way more than just 10 seconds. I want to give all of the congratulations to Ana de Silva for beating a 22-year-old record by nearly 2.5 feet. And I mean, we saw how talented she was in the indoor season last fall. She broke multiple records there, and I feel like she can only go up from here. She was a national champ in high school, a national champ in the NJCAA, and she's given us every reason to believe that she can be a champion in the NCAA.
Well, Matthew Bowling is also a national champion caliber athlete. I agree with Ana de Silva. She absolutely is as well. But his 100 mark this past weekend beat Kendall Williams' record set in 2018. One of the most talented athletes at UGA by far, if not the most talented athlete. He's a 6-time first-team All-American. He competes in 5 events. And by the way, he just helped that 4x400 team run the fastest time the school has ever seen.
You're right. Matthew Bowling is an amazing athlete, but you want to know what the biggest difference is between him and Ana de Silva? It's how they rank against their competitors. De Silva is head and shoulders above the rest, but Matthew Bowling is still ranked nationally behind Oregon's Micah Williams, and he's neck and neck with West Texas A&M's Benjamin Azamati. I mean, he only finished 6th in the 100-meter in last year's NCAAs, and he failed to qualify for the 2020 Olympics, so I just don't know if we've seen him at that national championship level yet.
Look, he's going to be in the 2024 Olympics. Just watch.
All right. Let's go ahead and switch gears over to Jack Turner Stadium just down the road. Tonight at 6 p.m., the number 14 Georgia Bulldogs host the number 21 LSU Tigers in Game 1 of a weekend series. A cat and dog showdown, no doubt, if you know what I mean. No, bad joke. Okay. All right. Dee, what do you know about the Bulldogs and how they look right now?
Well, Right-handed pitcher Madison Kerpix has stepped up as a sophomore to lead UGA softball after they graduated Mary Wilson Avant last year. So Kerpix is now 17-3 in the circle this season with 130 strikeouts in only 119 innings pitched. Now, last year, Avant had back-to-back shutouts against Florida that earned UGA their spot in the Women's College World Series. Ben, do you think Kerpix can do the same thing?
I think she's going to have to. This team really relies on her. You mentioned she's very reliable. She was last season. She is this season. And they're going to have to take advantage of the time she's on the mound. They can't waste those opportunities. So the bats are going to have to be hitting. They've got 10 games remaining in the season. They've got three-game series against SEC opponents, and they'll close out with Ole Miss. So she's going to have to play top of her game.
Yeah, and I want to go back to last season when Avant wasn't on the mound. They would go through their entire lineup trying to find somebody to fill her shoes, and they just couldn't really find it. So they knew that this season they were going to have someone step up, and I think it's been Kerpix. And now she has more experience as a sophomore, and her ERA right now is better than Avant's was at the end of last season.
True.
So if anyone is going to get this team back to the Women's College World Series, it's going to be Kerpix.
So sorry to cut you off there, Dee. I was just so excited because you make a good point that at the core of a good team is a good pitcher, right? But, okay, moving right along. On to St. Simon's Island, where the UGA men's golf team is halfway through their SEC tournament. Dee, how's it going down there?
Well, UGA started off their tournament in second place after an impressive day one on Wednesday, but they finished today tied for fifth. They will advance on to match play this weekend, though. So, Ben, how do you think they're going to fare heading into the quarterfinals tomorrow?
Well, they kind of played worse as the tournament's gone on, so it's hard to say right now. They did finish today off better than they started. They went as low as 7th place earlier this morning, moved their way up back to 5th, shooting +2 on the day. I think they'll struggle, though. They're going to go up against a tough opponent in the quarterfinals tomorrow, and if they are able to make the semifinals, it's going to be even tougher with Vanderbilt.
Yeah, you mentioned Vanderbilt, and they're #1 right now, and I think that's a team that UGA needs to look to because both teams are led by a duo made up of one senior and one freshman. There's Reed Davenport and Gordon Sargent of Vanderbilt, and then there's Trent Phillips and Maxwell Ford of UGA. Now, both of those guys did really well for UGA, but it's the other three for UGA that need to step up. The three for Vanderbilt were even or under one at the end of day 2, but I can't say the same for UGA, so that's where it's going to be the biggest difference.
All good points being made. So my question is, are they really still in this? We'll have to see how the rest of the day goes tomorrow. All right, coming up after the break, I'm stepping away from the desk, and Dee and Ben will be running the show, just for a little bit, though. These two will debate who has the best chance of bringing home a national championship title, what team has the best chance of winning the baseball and softball series, and which spring athlete is having the best rookie season. All this and more coming up after the break.
You're home before sunrise, on top of the house, the kids, and our future. The smell of your cooking is our alarm clock. My Shiro's day is never done.
Okay.
So let's start saving a little more now so we can feel prepared for retirement. A free 3-minute online chat can give us the personalized tips we need so we can live our lives to the fullest. Visit aceyourretirement.org.
Welcome back to Sportsource, everybody. Dee, it's April 22nd today. Do you know what that means?
That means it's Earth Day. And did you know that Senator Nelson made Earth Day on April 22nd because it's in between students' spring break and final exams? He wants young people to be outside. We should be outside today, man.
I did not know that. But I will tell you what's been bugging me. Did you know that the southern hemisphere only accounts for 30% of the land in the earth? I would have thought it was 50-50 the entire time I've been alive. Anyways, Dee, dive into that vocabulary of yours and tell it like it is and finish the phrase. What do we have first?
If UGA baseball loses its series against Alabama, that would be
understandable. Look, I know UGA is the better team on paper, but you never know what could happen. Alabama is a good team. They're only not in the top 25 because they just lost to #1 Tennessee. So let's look at Texas A&M, for example. They're in between UGA and Alabama in the rankings right now, but UGA lost to Texas A&M badly, might I add. That last game was 23-9, but Alabama beat Texas A&M. So, I mean, Bama has the home advantage in this series, but both teams are on losing streaks, so I feel like it could go either way. It would be understandable.
No, Dee, it would be embarrassing. They are the number 14 team in the country. They need to act like it. And from a Georgia point of view, you never want to lose to Alabama. We know about the little and big brother rivalry that's transpired pretty much through fall in the football. And honestly, that translates into the spring season. UGA baseball do not want to lose to Alabama, and they need to protect its second place in the SEC East. And they're going to have to do it through the Tate brothers, and I think that they should expect nothing less than 2 wins in this series.
Moving on to the next one.
This is the sport with the best chance of bringing home another national title to UGA.
I'm rewinding a bit, and I'm going with men's track and field. I'm riding with Matthew Bowling and co. They are the number 6 team in the country, and they've got Elijah Godwin, who's phenomenal in the 200. He runs the 4x400 and the 400 meters, and they've got a beast in Kyle Garland, who's great at competing in the decathlon. Now, will it happen? Probably not. They've got good comp with Texas A&M, Texas, LSU are the reigning champs, and of course the host Oregon. But is it the most likely? Absolutely.
No, Ben, because I think you're overlooking the most obvious answer, which is softball. They are talented in all 3 areas. We already talked about Kirkpatrick's pitching. There are 4 girls on the team who have 10 or more home runs on the season. And then you've got girls like Jada Kearney at center field, Elle Armistead at shortstop. They're a great team. They made it to the World Series last year, and I think that they can do it again and go even further.
I'm just not convinced. And honestly, come summer, we'll see who gets the I Told You So prize. And honestly, I think it's going to be me, but that's just how I see it. But I'm glad you brought up Jada Kearney, because our very own Katherine Lewis went around the bases with the sophomore earlier this week. Let's take a look while we take a breath.
Hey there, my name is Katherine Lewis, and I'm here at Jack Turner Stadium with UGA softball player Jada Kearney, and this is Around the Bases. Ready to start?
Yep.
All right, so why did you decide to stick with softball when you were trying out sports as a kid?
I played a lot of sports when I was younger, and softball was my thing around when I was 8 years old, so I decided to stick with it.
And your dad, Jay Kearney, played for the Steelers and the Packers, so what's something that he taught you as an athlete that you use on the softball field today?
Probably toughness. He gave me a lot of tough love, and he pushed me to work really hard.
Moving from New Jersey to Georgia was probably a little bit of a culture shock when you were coming to college, so what's one big difference that you noticed between the North and the South?
The people are a lot different from the North.
And what do you love about UGA besides softball, of course?
I'd say the people again. I made a lot of great friends here.
In early March against App State, you hit 2 home runs, one of those being a grand slam. Where would you say that ranks in your favorite games you've ever played as a softball player?
I'd probably say number 1. It was my first time hitting 2 home runs in my college career and my first time hitting a grand slam.
And as only a sophomore, you are the youngest position player on the team to regularly play. So you still prove to be a team leader time and time again. So what do you do to maintain that position on such a talented team?
Probably putting a smile on people's faces when they're struggling.
And all right, so now it's time for some rapid fire questions. Who is your favorite athlete of all time?
I'd probably say Kobe Bryant.
And what's your favorite jersey, your red, black, or white jersey?
White.
Why is that?
I think it looks good with their uniform.
And what is your favorite food to eat after a game?
Pasta.
All right. This has been Around the Bases with Jada Kearney. Again, I'm Katherine Lewis with the Carmical Sports Media Institute at UGA.
Thanks for that, Katherine. And we're going to keep rolling with softball and use their upcoming series to kick off This or That.
Who will win the softball series this weekend, UGA or LSU?
I mean, it's obviously UGA. They've won 4 out of their 5 SEC series this season. They beat number 11 Tennessee, and they only lost to number 4 Alabama. And they've got a lot of momentum because they just came off a big win on Wednesday against USC Upstate in extra innings. They also have the home field advantage. You know how loud it gets in Jack Turner Stadium. It's UGA.
You know, Dee, I actually think this question's in there just for me to agree to your softball takes. But it's hard to bet against this 36-9 UGA team. It's a good series between 2 top 25 teams. And I mean, I just don't think the Tigers are up for the challenge. They've kind of had a little bit of an above average season, 28-16 on the year. But the difference is they're just not good when they're outside of Louisiana. They are 7-9 on the road. And that's just not good enough. This UGA softball team is phenomenal at home. And they'll take this series. What's next?
Who has had the better rookie season, Kulichenko or Riasco?
I'm going to have to go with the high jumper, Elena Kulichenko. I mean, it's really close between these 2 international athletes, but I'm going with the Russian native. She was named SEC Indoors Women's Freshman Field Athlete of the Year, which is a mouthful, and she just earned her best tally of the season, jumping just over 6 feet at the Tom Jones Memorial last weekend.
Yeah, she is a great athlete, but I gotta go Riasco. She's ranked 29 nationally, and it's not even that surprising because she has a lot of experience in Ecuador. She's trained with French Open champions. She's competed in Grand Slam junior events. She has the best record on the team, 23-8 overall. And I like her because she's versatile in singles and doubles. Doubles, she's 13-6, and I just feel like she's the obvious answer there. All right, Ben, we're running out of time, so take us to the final stretch.
Georgia football could have as many as 15 players selected in the 2022 NFL Draft next week. How many do you think are going in the first round?
I want to say 4 with Jordan Davis, Trayvon Walker, Nakobe Dean, and Devontae Wyatt, but it could be 5 or 6 with Lewis Cine and George Pickens. We'll have to wait and see. UGA women's golf finished 10th out of 14th in the SEC tournament last week. What do you think about that result, Ben?
Their season is over. They're not getting an NCAA regional bid because that performance was extremely underwhelming. Georgia men's tennis are hosting the men's SEC championship this weekend at the lovely Damagil complex. Who's taking home the crown?
Sorry to my fellow Bulldogs, but I gotta go Florida. They're undefeated in SEC play and ranked number 3 in the country. It would be an upset if they didn't win.
That might be a cardinal sin. You better be careful walking around Athens later. We'll have more on the UGA tennis a little later as Taft Gantt joins Sarah in the studio to discuss this weekend's action on the court. As for us two, we're out of time. Dee, a pleasure as always.
Always fun chatting with you, Ben, and thanks Sportsource for letting us take over.
All right, I've got to go find Sarah. You know what? She's here right now. I'm going to have to get out of here before she takes the seat from me.
You know, a lot of people say when you're going somewhere, you don't want to look back. But I beg to differ. For her to see her father celebrate his graduation, it's the best feeling in the world. I can't lie and say it was easy. But sometimes you just have to stop everything and take it in. I looked at everything in a different light. I realized it started with me going back and getting my high school diploma.
Man, it feels good to have the desk back. Welcome back into Sportsource. I am now joined by analyst Taft Gantt. Taft, I've been hearing a lot of noise coming from the Dan McGill Complex Center the past 2 days.
Yes, Sarah, that's because for the first time since 2005, the SEC Men's Tennis Tournament is back in Athens, Georgia. I went down for an insider's tour of this year's host site. We're here outside the Dan McGill Tennis Complex, home to not only the Georgia Bulldogs, but also the 2022 SEC Men's Tennis Tournament. This weekend, tennis fans from all over the SEC will be flooding these gates behind me to watch some of the best collegiate tennis in the nation. Let's take a look inside. In February 2020, the complex unveiled new renovations from an $8.5 million project, the largest makeover to Dan McGill since 2002. It features a new grandstand at Henry Field Stadium with chairback seating in the lower levels, permanent concession stands, restrooms, and a new 1,750 square foot handicap accessibility box. With its 5,000 seat capacity and brand new touch, the Dan McGill Tennis Complex is one of the premier tennis facilities in the nation, and it has been for decades. Let's take a look at some of the history. The Georgia Bulldogs men's tennis team has won a total of 6 national championships, with 5 being won on their home court here at the Dan McGill Tennis Complex. In 1993, the complex was officially named the Dan McGill Tennis Complex after Bulldog great Dan McGill. McGill led UGA as head coach for 34 years. The complex has hosted the men's NCAA championships a total of 24 times, the women's championships 3 times, and both genders 5 times, most recently in 2017. It played host to 13 NCAA championships in a row from 1977 to 1989. The current Bulldogs coach, Manny Diaz, became the winningest head coach in the SEC tennis history as he reached 707 career victories with a 4-0 win over Ohio State in 2020. The number surpasses only that of his mentor and former coach, Dan McGill. The Georgia Bulldogs have won a total of 31 SEC regular season championships and 10 SEC tournament titles for a grand total of 41 SEC championships. This weekend, the Bulldogs will look to up that number to 42 and claim their first SEC tournament title since 2017. Reporting for the Carmical Sports Media Institute, I'm Taft.
Wait, so did I hear you correctly? Georgia has won 5 of its 6 national championships in Athens on home court?
That's right, Sarah. The Bulldogs certainly have shown that they have a home court advantage at Dan McGill over the years, and this 2022 season has been no different.
Without a doubt, Georgia won 9 of its 10 home matches this year, with its only home loss against number 1 seeded Florida. Its other 2 conference losses on the season, Texas A&M and Kentucky, were both lost on the road. But at the end of the day, there is only so much an environment can do for these athletes. It truly all comes down to who decides to show up.
Exactly, and there's so much talent in the SEC this year. I mean, Sarah, you have 4 of the top 8 singles players in the nation, including the number 1 overall singles player, Ben Shelton from Florida. Georgia will need to take advantage of every edge they can get.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. But with that being said, Taft, who is standing in the way of Georgia claiming its 42nd SEC title?
Georgia is seeded 4th. They got the double bye, so they had to wait and see who they would be taking on after Thursday's round. Number 5, Tennessee, defeated number 13, Alabama, 4-0. So that's who Georgia is playing as we speak.
Okay, a 5-4 seeded matchup sounds thrilling, but it's a tall order for Georgia. We can't forget about the fact that Tennessee is the reigning SEC tournament champion.
And the Vols were the 5 seed when they upset the Gators in the championship. So truly, today's match is up for the taking because this isn't Georgia's first time around the block. Half of their roster this year is made up of either seniors or graduate students.
And those are the guys leading the charge for the Bulldogs, specifically transfer graduate students Hamish Stewart and Tristan McCormick, with Stewart's talent ranking in the top 15 for singles and McCormick's leadership. He's been named team captain multiple times. Together, they will heavily influence the outcome for the Bulldogs.
There's certainly a lot of talent in the UGA singles flight, but something that might come back to hurt the Bulldogs is their doubles play. Georgia comes into the tournament having lost a doubles point in each of its last 3 matches. I'm sure that's something that's been on the mind of Coach Manny Diaz and his Bulldogs heading into the season.
Okay, Taft, so let's just say Georgia comes out of this tough battle on the other side and defeats Tennessee. They advance to the semifinals on Saturday, but the tournament is far from over for the Bulldogs because Georgia would meet the winner of LSU versus Florida.
And it will most likely be the top-seeded Gators, who are on their revenge tour after being upset by Tennessee in last year's championship.
Oh, okay. You want to talk about a revenge tour. The last time Georgia wants to do is lose to Florida again at home, especially this season. I mean, if they lost the weekend, their SEC title drought would only continue. I mean, that one has lasted 5 years since their last victory in 2017.
All right, Sarah, let's slow down. Take a deep breath.
Okay.
The Gators aren't the only ones standing in the way of the Bulldogs ending that drought.
Okay, you're right, Taft. We got to focus up. Back to the tournament. So, who are the other teams still hanging on in this tournament?
The semifinal is set. On the other side of the bracket, this morning, number 3 Kentucky swept number 11 Arkansas 4-0, and number 7 Auburn upset number 2 South Carolina 4-2. So we have a matchup between the Wildcats and the Tigers.
All right, the stage is set for the men, but let's take a look at what's happening in Gainesville, Florida right now, because the women's tennis teams are also in the thick of their SEC tournament.
That's right. Currently, the 3rd-seeded Bulldogs are battling it out with number 6 South Carolina. If Georgia can pull out the win, they will be facing the winner of number 7 Tennessee versus number 2 Auburn in the semifinals. And then on the other side of the bracket, Florida and Texas A&M have secured their spots in the semifinal.
Right, and it's important to note that last season, Georgia swept Texas A&M to win the SEC tournament title. 2 of the Bulldogs' points came from Meg Kowalski and Morgan Kopuk, who are still with them as graduate students. But this year, the Aggies are coming in as the top seed and could potentially meet Georgia in the championship match again. That's definitely something to keep an eye out for heading into the weekend.
And what's great about all these semifinal and championship matches for both the men and the women is that you'll be able to watch them live this weekend. The semifinals will be streamed on SEC Network Plus on Saturday. Then both of the championships will be aired on the SEC Network channel on Sunday.
All right, so Taft, how's your bracket looking? I'm looking at about under 500 for the men, but I only got one wrong for the women.
There you go. My women's bracket is certainly better. It's been a little more chalk so far. My bracket, though, in the semifinals and championship is going to be decided on how well Georgia does, because if they get knocked out early, then my bracket is toast.
All right, so we've got a lot coming up to see who's going to come out of this victorious. But now, as I mentioned earlier in the show, there are several local high schools in state in the hunt for soccer state titles. Girls and boys team from Oconee County, North Oconee, and Athens Academy are still in the conversation and play next week. Reporter Taylor Hearn went out to Athens Academy to go goal to goal with senior midfielder Brooks Chisholm, one of the Spartans' top all-around performers.
I'm Taylor Hearn, and this is senior soccer player of Athens Academy, Brooks Chisholm, and we're going goal to goal. So how old were you when you started playing soccer?
I was about 7 years old when I started playing.
So who influenced you, or what influenced you to start playing soccer?
A few of my friends started playing. I was playing like t-ball beforehand, and then a few of my buddies started playing soccer, so I just kind of followed them.
So do you have a professional soccer player that you mold the way you play after?
I wouldn't say mold, but like Neymar, Ronaldinho, those are like my favorite players to watch. They have fun playing.
So what's the best pregame hype song that you have on your playlist right now?
Definitely Doses and Mimosas by Cherub.
So do you have any pregame rituals that you like to do?
I don't know if I have any pregame rituals. No, not off the top of my head.
So what's the most memorable moment that you've had while playing soccer?
Probably, it's tough between two games, both against Clark Central. I'd gotta go junior year at Clark Central. We were tied 1-1. Then Miles Pringle scored the game-winning goal, a free kick with like 10 minutes left, and we won the game.
Awesome. So if you had to put a play on your personal highlight reel, which one would it be?
Oof, that's a good one. If I have to go this year, Miles again megged a guy, then I got the ball back and I megged him again. The kid walked away. It was a pretty good one.
Awesome. Well, I'm Taylor Hearn, and this is Brooks Chisholm, and this was Goal to Goal.
And just 10 miles down the road from Athens Academy, North Oconee has a special team in the making, led by this week's Coach in the Spotlight. Reporter Mackenzie Brooks has this story, and she's in the studio here with us now. Mackenzie?
Yeah, Sarah, over at North Oconee, the girls' soccer team is looking to gear up for a state championship repeat, and they're led by a special coach that makes it possible. Ben Grassmeyer became the head coach at North Oconee at just 23 years old. While his resume has built itself quickly with the 2021 state championship and 2 region titles, the journey did not come without its learning curves.
I was gifted the opportunity to take charge here, and I've made mistakes and I've learned from them, but that's to come with any first-year coach.
Many of Grassmeyer's graduating seniors have been with him since his early coaching days and have grown accustomed to the unique dynamic.
It's definitely easier. In some ways it's also harder because he's young still and he's still learning the same way that we are. So having a coach that's so young is good because he understands the struggles that we're going through.
In his short 6 years at North Oconee, Grassmeyer has continued to develop his coaching techniques.
He's definitely developed patience. So much patience.
They've taught me how to take a breath and solve a problem versus react emotionally.
Although his head coaching career began at a young age, Grassmeyer's soccer and coaching background shows depth. He started his competitive soccer career at Gwinnett Soccer Academy, a club many of his players belong to now. He then played club at UGA, and during his time in Athens, he found time to coach both Gwinnett Soccer Academy and Oconee County, but it wasn't until North Oconee that he had his first go-around with a girls' team.
Managing a girls' team is different than managing a boys' team, and I've really had to adjust a little bit. I grew up with 2 younger brothers, so I was really comfortable coaching boys, and coaching girls was a first for me when I got here. So learning how to coach girls is a little bit different, but it's so much more powerful. I've learned so much more just about coaching in general and reacting or engaging with high school students.
Beyond high school students, Grassmeyer also has experience with younger students as he's a 6th grade science teacher at Malcolm Bridge Middle School. His teaching background allows him to create a deeper connection with his student athletes.
He jokes around with us all the time. He kind of knows a couple more things than maybe an older coach would. He plays with us too in practice. He's always running around, having a good time.
Joyner and the rest of the seniors are looking to stretch their last season through the championship. With 2 games under their belt, the Titans have 2 more to go before they reach the chance of a repeat. But regardless of a state championship, Grassmyer sees North Oconee as home for the long run. Not only would a perfect playoff run mark a second state title for Grassmyer, but it would also be his 100th career win as a head coach, all before the age of 30.
Man, Mackenzie, I'm only 22, but I'm feeling like I need to step up my game a bit. Lots of exciting postseason runs happening in a couple local high schools, and Georgia sports are well underway with many in the conversation for titles this season. So, how are we feeling at home? Were you able to keep up with all those spring sports insanity? There's plenty of action to keep an eye out for in Northeast Georgia and the Classic City over the next couple of weeks, that's for sure. Well, that's all we've got here for you on tonight's final spring edition of Sportsource. For my analysts, Ben McKettrick, Dee Turner, and Taft Gantt, our features reporters, and all of our talented production crew members, thank you for watching Sportsource. Good night.
Grady Newsource is a student production of the Grady College of Journalism and Mass Communication at the University of Georgia, which is solely responsible for its contents. Views expressed do not represent those of the administration nor the Board of Regents at the University System of